Welcome to the Mayor's Corner. I'm Jim Brown, Mayor of Cedar Falls. With today's program is simply an interview type of program with two individuals very involved with recent happenings here at City Hall. First, I have Jeff Olson, Director of Public Safety, with me today, and the newly hired Fire Chief, John Bostwick. Welcome to you both.
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate
Absolutely. First, congratulations to you, John.
Thank you, Mayor.
In the position that you have. Your candidacy would be what some would call the classic internal hire for this position. I've heard many in the community were glad that we hired within, but tell us a little bit about your professional background and experience.
Well, I came to Cedar Falls from Fullerton, California. Got on the fire department here quite a while ago and steadily rose up through the ranks. I was a lieutenant and then a captain and battalion chief on a shift and managed that shift. And then just recently I was transferred over to work with administration and training of the alternative staff in Cedar Falls. And then about 6 months ago, you asked me to be the acting fire chief in Cedar Falls, and that was a great learning experience for me.
I bet it was. And just for the folks who are watching, how many years have you been a part of the Cedar Falls Fire Department?
A little over 36.
36. Fantastic. Appreciate that service that you have.
Thank you.
Director Olson, there's many important positions within the city. There's been a desire to enhance the communications within the city as a whole. Can you describe a little bit of the critical nature of this position?
Well, yeah, obviously, as everybody knows, a fire chief is a pretty important position within the city. You know, they manage, we have a public safety department here, so they help manage, you know, primarily they're responsible for the fire activities, but they also help with a lot of the police activities as well because of our cross-trained combined type department. But it's really important that we have a fire chief, first and foremost, that makes sure we can do our basics. You know, we can respond to the fire scene and do what we need to do there, as well as some of the medical calls and other calls we go to, because it's a wide variety of calls. You know, we need someone too that has vision and that can look into the future and see the best way to manage these resources that we have.
Absolutely. And a few months ago, at the public meetings we've had, the City Council changed the qualifications for the fire chief for the city with some concerns. But can you also convey to the audience some of the benefits that were associated with what the council did?
Yeah, you know, we had quite a bit of discussion on that, as you said, as to what the qualifications currently were and maybe what they should be. And part of the problem is first of all, we did look around to other cities, and we found that other cities such as Waterloo and Dubuque did not require a bachelor's. We did at the time. And we did soften that to 60 credit hours with 12 years of supervisory experience. But we looked at the past two hires were external fire chiefs, and the primary reason for that was because we didn't have anyone internal that met the qualifications, and for the most part that was the bachelor's. We actually had a battalion chief in the past that didn't have the bachelor's but tried to find an equivalency. So they had some college credit and threw in all the training they had throughout their career, but ultimately they did not meet those qualifications. And the body that decides whether they meet those qualifications or not is our Civil Service Commission.
Excellent, yes. And it's been busy around City Hall the past couple of weeks with the interview process that took place. Can you describe what that effort entailed and sort of the process that was followed in that entire interview process?
Oh, absolutely, sure. Once we established what the qualifications were, we made those changes, and those changes have to be adopted by the City Council, which they did do. Then we have to put a testing process together, which needs to be approved by the Civil Service Commission. The Civil Service Commission are appointed individuals from Cedar Falls that serve in that commission, and it's governed by the rules set forth by the state. So we have to meet those testing standards that the commission approves. And so we roll through those standards, and they approve a list who you can hire from, individuals that they say are qualified to be the chief. And then we can take from that list of certified, qualified individuals and move forward with a selection from there.
Excellent. And Chief, you were a part of that process. Obviously,
it was a grueling process.
I bet it was. Obviously, you did a great job. I know one question that was brought up was, how your management style, how you engage your management style with staff. Can you convey a little bit how you approach that important part of your job?
Well, I think it's going to be important for us moving forward into the future that we communicate well, that we spend time discussing things. We've got some focus groups that we're working on. We've got a lot of meetings that we're going to have between the command staff, between the firefighters on shift, and even the outside agencies. We need to really improve even our communication from what we've done in the past to even get it better. That will really help us move forward into the future.
Yep, I agree. And Jeff, one thing I've had to wrap my mind around the last year is somewhat of the alphabet soup as it relates to the public safety, or the PSOs and the POCs. First, explain a little bit about that staffing effort as a whole, with some of those explanations towards the PSOs and the POCs. Coverage at the fires, response times. Can you just share a little bit about what that overall philosophy is and how we're moving towards that?
Yeah, as we look at better ways to provide service, we've visited with other cities, we've called a number of cities, and the public safety model really seems to be the model of the future, the model that provides the best service at the most efficient cost, I guess you could say. We've done, we have a police and a fire department, obviously, and we've experimented with part-time firefighters, paid-on-call police officers and firefighters, where people are cross-trained and respond when we have urgent calls. And those models seem to be helping in certain ways, but we always had the gap being they were coming to the scene after people have gotten to the scene and we're calling for more help. What we really wanted is a model that got more people there immediately upon the scene. And the public safety officer works perfectly for the fire side on that. You have cross-trained police officers that carry some fire gear in their car. So you have a fire shift that responds, and then you have police officers that respond, and they change the role into that firefighting role. And we've had a lot of success with that. We kind of modified our paid-on-call program into a public safety officer program a couple years ago, and it's working really well. In fact, John here indicated the other day we had a fire call, and we had 13 firefighters respond. 7 of them were full-time, 6 of them were the public safety officers. And John's comment to me was, I've been with the city over 30 years. We've never had that many firefighters at a call within 5 minutes, ever. And it just goes to show you how well that public safety officer program is working.
Absolutely. So we are still getting that coverage for the safety of our citizens, but also being very mindful of those costs in relation to how that balances itself out.
Yeah, and that's the kind of the beauty of that public safety officer program, because if you look at policing and fire, there are times there are a lot of activity and you're very busy, but there's a lot of times where you're not, or there's a lot of downtime. And from a management standpoint, as you look at that, you think to yourself, gosh, there's got to be something better we can do to not be paying people not to work. And I don't say that in a derogatory way, because it's true. You can imagine a fire shift at times, there's just nothing going on, not much to do. And you can look at the police side. Third shift, maybe on a Sunday night, it's not very busy. So you want to think of ways to maybe capitalize on that downtime and make it a little more useful.
Absolutely. Absolutely. John, I'll end with asking you the question, what you see towards the future of the department as it might relate to training or communications, various input that you and the staff may have.
Well, thank you for asking that, Mayor. I think that we've got a really bright future at the fire department. We've got some really talented people down there. We've got some people that are experts in the field, and utilizing those people in ways that we can really use that knowledge that they have and strengthen the rest of us, including the public safety officers, the paid-on-call and the part-time, all of those groups, moving those groups together, training together, working together, communicating. I think that we really have a bright future with some really great people.
Outstanding. Very exciting times indeed. Well, that wraps up this edition of the Mayor's Corner. I want to thank my two guests, Director Jeff Olson and the new Fire Chief John Bostwick.
Thank you.
And thanks for everyone for watching the program today.